Hello, everybody. This is Alia Jamal, the love coach, and we are meeting for another love circle. And today we are talking about emotions, that your emotions tell a story. We are meeting a little bit on the off time. We are meeting on a Wednesday at 12 p.m., not our usual time. We'll be keeping this time for this week and the following week, and then we'll be back to our usual time. So let's talk about emotions. When I talk to a lot of my clients, and majority of my clients, I would say 90% of my clients are women, and they tend to think I am very emotional or I get emotional around my period. And that is, a tendency that we have. We label ourselves emotional, society label us as emotional creatures, and we're just like, all these emotions are all over the place. I don't know what to do with them. Uh, Most of the time, because we have to go out of the house and we have to work, we can't be crying all the time. We suppress our emotions. And sometimes we try to go even as far to try to disconnect from our emotion and try to compartmentalize them so we don't have to feel them anymore. And that is something we don't want to do. What we want to do, we want to understand emotion, why we have them, how can we live with them in harmony, and how can we use them to our advantage. So this whole conversation is going to be, why do we even have emotions, and how you can have a better relationship with them and use them to your advantage. So let's just first look at what the word emotion means. So some people say it's emotion, energy in motion. The way I have understood it, and I'll say most of my understanding has come from being a pranic healing student, learning from energy. When energy is moving within you, like in your body, energy is moving. That movement we consider it an emotion. Emotion always starts with a trigger. You might think and say, I was just sitting there and all of a sudden I started to feel sad. I have no idea why. There was no trigger. I was not talking to anybody. There was nothing I was doing. Now, the trigger does not have to be a conversation. Trigger can be a memory, it can be a thought, it can be an object that you saw. Have you ever been to the mall and maybe you just saw this beautiful dress in the window and it took your mind somewhere and then it took your mind somewhere and then 5 minutes later you're just feeling an emotion that has something to do with the past? That happens to me all the time. And, I just became good at catching myself and not going down that road, being able to come out of it and catch myself. So that would be a trigger. Anything that creates a response within you, any kind of response. It could be emotional response, it could be like, in terms of an action, but when something is making something move within you. So what a trigger does, it kind of stir up the energy in your energy body. So one thing I want to show you guys, which something that we don't even realize. So here's your physical body. I'm going to draw my beautiful stick figure. This is your physical body. We all know our physical body. So every single one of us, we know our physical body, and we have a whole struggle with a relationship with our physical body. But outside of our physical body, there's emotional body. So you can consider, like, a layer of energy outside of you, and that is your emotional body. So most of the time when I'm working, like, when I'm doing the pranic healing, I'm doing healing on my clients, I am working to clear these emotions from their energy body. Uh, but there is a whole emotional body itself. And if you have studied Eckhart Tolle stuff and how he talks about pain body lives in your emotions body. We'll talk more about that too. And then outside of your emotional body is your mental body. Now, emotional body and mental body are both of them, you cannot see them with your eyes. You can, now we got like an interesting thing going on. So this is your physical body. This is your emotional body. we'll be talking more about the emotional body today. And this is going to be your mental body. Now, mental body has like, it's more related to like, your intellect, ideas, and mind as an instrument. I'm not going to go into that because that's just going to confuse you. So just pay attention to outside of your physical body, there's a whole body. It's energy body and it's emotional body. That's where we keep all of our emotions. Let's say when you were 5 years old and you got so scared, you got so afraid because something happened, you were in a real danger, that emotional body has the memory of that fear. And if a lot of them got stacked on top of each other, and there was like, fear, maybe parents left you with somebody else, there was that abandonment, and a lot of things got stacked up, they make your pain body. So anything that happens in your life that has anything to do with fear or abandonment, your pain body is going to get activated and kind of takes over you. So that is like, how Eckhart Tolle explains it, how I have understood it. Anything that triggers it, your emotional body is just going like, on a different wavelength than you would like to go. And we get confused, like, why I'm feeling all these emotions, why they are coming. I have to do something, like, maybe you have a meeting to go to and you're like, I don't have time to cry. What I'm going to do right now. So that is what our emotional body is all about. Now, before we even go into how do I have a healthy emotional body, how do I interact with myself, we want to understand, why do we have this built-in mechanism? What emotions tell us? So that is another thing that I'm going to draw, because it just makes us grab the concept so much easier when we can see it visually versus when we are just talking about it. So imagine that this is your center. Now we are shifting towards your center as a soul. Like, you're a divine being in this physical body. So let's say this is your center. And the energy is moving through you all day long, keeps you alive. Now let's say something happens, a trigger happens that take you off your center. And you kind of start going over here. Instead of staying in your center, you start to moving to the side. That separation from your center is creating an emotion. The emotion is telling, hey, you're off center. That's all it's telling you. Hey, you're off center. Now, of course, something happened in your mind because of the outside trigger or inside trigger. You thought of a memory, and that has caused the meaning that you're giving it, and all of a sudden, instead of being in your center, you're off center. It could be like if you have had an experience, you're going on a highway, everything is very calm and quiet, it's a beautiful drive, nothing to worry about, and all of a sudden a memory from past comes and it makes you feel so sad or so angry. That is when your energy went off center. And now how off center you are is going to decide how extreme the emotion is going to be. Now, the emotion itself, like every single emotion, I believe it's I don't have the book with me here right now. It's Power versus Force. And in that, Dr. Hawkins, I believe, I can see the book right there, but I don't have it with me right now. I believe his name is Dr. Hawkins. He talks about David Hawkins. Yeah, David Hawkins is the author name, Power versus Force. He talks about how every emotion has its own number of vibrations. So let's say sadness or misery would be like, at 10, and then the peace would be at 500. They are measuring them as energy units, as a wavelength, kind of those kind of energy units they are using. Not 100% sure if they use a wavelength unit. Any physicist in the crowd, don't quote me on that, but there are specific numbers that are given for, like, people who really study it. So when you're feeling sad, you're in a very lower vibration, so it makes you feel down. When you are in peace and joy, it's a higher vibration, so you feel so excited and so uplifted. The closer you come to your center, the more refined and more joyful you're gonna feel. The farther you go from your center, the more miserable and sad that you're gonna feel, maybe even depressed. So what your emotion is telling you, based on which emotion you feel on regular basis, that you're off center. You're not in your center. You're living here, here, or way up there. You're stretching outside of who you truly are, who you are as a being in this body. So let's start now with that. Your emotion is just telling you you are so off center. Now, what the real work is going to be, what takes you off center. What happens within you, within your mind, within your body, within your energy body, that you get off center? And that's where we're going to talk about trigger. When we get triggered, in that split second, the memory that comes up, there is a meaning that we are giving to it, to the situation, and there's a story that we are playing. And when that story is being played, that creates that emotion. So now let's look at it in terms of an example. Let's say you see, I'm going to stick to weight, because it's so much easier for most of us to relate. Not all of us, for most of us to relate at some point in our life, especially if your mom, after giving birth, that's the first thing you want to get rid of is the baby weight. Let's say you go to, you're meeting with a friend, and the friend just say, hey, when are you going to lose weight? Now, if you're already struggling within you, that question, that innocent, loving question that had nothing to do with you, was just a random conversation, becomes a trigger for you. So before you even answer, in those split seconds, your mind goes into, she's judging me. Who does she think she is? And why I'm like this? Why I'm not losing this weight? So there's sadness and anger playing a role both at the same time. And pretty soon you might either start crying, because you're like, you're my friend, why would you say this to me? Or you're gonna get bitter, in anger, we attack because we feel like we are under attack. There's a fear involved. So you might say, I'll lose it whenever I'm ready. Or you might say, I have just made peace with it. I accept myself. Now, when we say that I accept myself, we are just saying it outwardly, but inwardly, we are feeling miserable and we are feeling sad. That I should have, done it already. I'm such a loser. Why can't I stick to a diet? Why can't I do it? It creates an emotional storm within you. Think of it, two tornadoes going on at the same time. Because while you created all that story, what has happened? You're completely off center. Completely off center. You are not being the whole, complete, magical being that you are in this body. You are more getting attached to how your physical body looks in that moment. And you're giving a meaning to the question that you were asked. Now, why we do that kind of stuff to ourselves? It all comes from our past. In the past, whatever meaning we have given to a situation, or whatever meaning we have heard other people giving, it gets kind of fed into our unconscious mind. So when we are put in that situation, we're just going to repeat the whole thing. There was this one movie I watched one time. I believe it's a South Korean movie called 200 Pounds of Beauty. And it was just so interesting to see that movie and see the girl go through transformation and how everything changes, and what the thought process is to take the action that she took. If you're interested in a good movie, definitely go ahead and watch it. But just because I have seen that movie, I can already associate higher weight, or when people are questioning, it's going to create those kind of emotions. even if I never experienced those emotions. I already got programmed with I'm supposed to feel angry and sad and rebellious and do something about it or break the wall. I never experienced it, but I just watched somebody else experience. So all the meanings that we give to those triggers that cause those big emotions, we have already been fed those triggers, those meanings and those stories that how we are supposed to react in a situation. So you might think like, I don't know anybody who reacted the way I reacted, or I don't know anybody who feel the emotions the way I feel. But if you really start to dig down and you start looking, most likely your mom or your dad or one of your sibling, they used to express the same way. The energetical patterns that our parents have, which will translate to emotional patterns they have, we get inherited those. We get those inherited when we are still in mom's tummy. When we are inside the womb and we have no idea what's about to happen, we're about to come into this world, we are already absorbing, I erased it, we are already absorbing mom's emotional body. So we are born with mom's emotional body. So if your mom tends to be more on the sad side, that's going to be your natural and easier way of being. And then in the midst of that, you'll have to find who I really am. And if you pay attention to, if you ever have those deep conversations with your parents, the meanings that you give to specific incidents, they give them the same meaning. But sometimes we go to them for wisdom. We're like, Mom, this is going on. How should I deal with it? And then the mom gives you advice, and then you go do the same thing. And then whenever a new situation comes up, because our experience is sometimes smaller than their experience, they have lived on the planet Earth for so long, then we'll go back to them and then I'll ask them, this thing happened. How do you think I should behave, or what should I do? And you take that advice and then you act on it. That's how we even take more of who they are as who we are being. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes parents' advice can be really good, sometimes it can be really bad. But in that process, you did not connect it with who you are in your wisdom. You didn't even try to discover who you are in your wisdom. And those are the things that are going to bring you to your center. So when you discover, I'm just going to draw this again. So I'm referring you to. So let's say this is your center. This is a being and the energy that's moving through you all day long, all the time, just going up and down, keeps you alive. That is our truth. And if you're not analyzing, okay, somebody just cut me off on the road, I get very, very angry. And that's exactly how my dad used to do. Not my dad, but let's say that is the situation that you have at hand, or maybe you have seen somebody do that. There's a meaning they gave it to the incident. Maybe your dad gave it the meaning, like if somebody's cutting me off, they're disrespecting me. You never gave that meaning, but you are reacting the same way and you're having same emotional reactions. In those moments, you are having the same emotional reactions. So if you ask yourself, why I feel angry when someone cuts me off, what does it mean to me? When you start asking yourself those questions, you'll be like, well, because dad used to do it, because I think maybe that person is disrespecting me. When you asking yourself those questions, what you're doing, you're bringing back this anger vibration that took you so off center. You're bringing it back to understanding. Let me see what's going on over here. You're just coming closer, closer, closer to your center. And pretty soon, through this process of let me just ask myself what's going on, you're going to come back to your center. And you're going to experience that peace and joy that we all are supposed to feel at all time as a natural state of being. But you have to do the work where you ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? What is the story that's playing in my mind? Is that story true? Is it true when someone cuts you off, they are disrespecting you? Most likely not. There could be an emergency. They could be like, carrying somebody hurt in their car and they really need to get to the hospital. Maybe it didn't even occur to them to call the ambulance. They were like, let me just try to get it there. Or maybe they're getting late from something so important. Maybe they're getting late from their own wedding. We can come with all kind of possible scenario that could be true. So what it really comes down to, we are not 100% sure whatever the trigger is causing, whatever story we are playing in our mind is 100% real. It's a made up story based on our past. But when you are going through, when you're unpacking that story, you get to know yourself. You get to know, oh, these are the lies I believe. That's why I stay so angry. Oh, these are the lies I believe. That's why I stay so sad. Oh, these are the lies I believe. That's why I stay irritated and frustrated all the time. So every emotion that you're going to open up, look at it, ask question, it's going to tell you a story. And once you play with that story and you bring it more towards truth, and the truth is, we can never be 100% sure that what we are saying is true in our head. There are some universal truths that we are aware of. Yes, we can follow those, but they don't cause the emotional mayhem that happens in our life. Those comes from assumptions. Those come from our compulsive side trying to fill in the gaps because we have to have an answer. And we will take anything for an answer when we are running a story in our mind, even if it's a wrong answer. Because we just want to feel sure that I know it. That creates a sense of safety within us. So sometimes when we are used to getting angry, that overtime anger, that overtime sadness creates a predictable response that creates safety. We always know I would always get sad if this thing happened. And that certainty creates safety. That's why it becomes very hard to change our emotional patterns. Because, that's our natural way of being. That's easier to use. It comes easy to you. And then we think, oh, that's who I am. I know myself really well. But is that your true self? Or is that just a personality that God created out of a reaction to the environment and whatever we got inherited from our parents? Sometimes I would hear people say, oh, my dad used to get so angry. So, I took his temper and I get angry too. Okay, good. Is that your truth? Or is that just, you got inherited his way of being? What if 10 years down the road, your dad decided he doesn't want to be angry anymore and he does this inner work and come back to his center, come back to his natural way of being, which is going to be peace, joy, and happiness? Then what you're going to do? Then what's going to be your identity? Your dad is not an angry person anymore. How come you are? That's where we go after what my emotions are telling about me and how can I change those stories into the stories that would add more to me and to life in general, and where I get to stay in my center and where I get to stay in my peace and joy at all times. And I don't have to force myself to go right or left or try to be somebody I'm not, or really hold on to those emotional patterns. Now, here's the reason why we don't want to do it. That's why it's very, very important for you to do the emotional work. It's very important for you to become aware that your emotions are telling a story. So now I'm going to draw that energy body that gets affected by all these emotions. One more thing I wanted to say, if you're not feeling your emotions, if you're not processing your emotions, what end up happening, they are going to come out in times when you can say like, a change is happening. So let's say if somebody always suppressed their anger, always suppress their anger, and now they're going through a divorce, which is like one of the biggest life change you can go through. They are gonna be so angry at all time, even though there's nothing to be angry about. But of course, they'll project their anger on somebody or something. Usually it's the opposite person, opposite party, that they start projecting their anger on. But it's just an anger they suppressed so long, and now the changes happen. They don't have like, per se capacity to suppress it anymore, because the change is really big. Another thing that women experience pretty much every single month, depending on your age, we go through our menstrual cycle. So what is happening during our menstrual cycle when we start to bleed? There's an energy shift that's happening, literally like this. You go from holding on in your uterus to all of a sudden release. Now, if you've been holding on to your emotions, if you've been holding on to like suppressing your emotions all month long because you are just such a busy person, you don't have time to sit with yourself, you don't have time to process your emotions, you don't have time to let yourself feel how you really are feeling and let it move through your body. Maybe you use something to numb yourself. It could be sleeping pills, it could be alcohol, it could be weed, it could be any kind of drugs that we use, it could be even sometime anxiety pill, depression pill. It could be any of those chemicals that we put in our body to suppress it. You're going to be a hot mess during your menstrual period, not because you're an emotional creature, because the whole month you were just suppressing it and not looking at it. Now that your body's going through a huge shift in terms of your energy and your physical body, like all of our hormones, all of a sudden they go through a shift. You don't have the capacity to keep suppressing them anymore. Your body's going in release mode, so everything is going to come out. The physical part and the energetical part. So if you do become a hot mess, that is the words that is used around your menstrual period, like once you're bleeding, put in time in your day where you give yourself 10 minutes, 5 minutes just to be with yourself, sit with yourself if that's too much. On the weekend, on your off day, give yourself some time just to be with yourself and ask yourself, how am I really feeling? And why I'm feeling this way? What is something I can do for myself to maybe feel different, to understand my emotion, to understand my feeling? Once you give yourself that room to breathe, I can guarantee you're not going to be a hot mess on your next end of the cycle when you're bleeding. You're not going to be a hot mess. It's tried, tested by me, my clients, and we have been able to create big shifts if you just follow this tiny thing. Be with yourself every single day. A little bit of me time, 5 minutes. A lot of women, what they do when they do their me time, so their me time would be like, I am meditating, I am doing yoga, I'm reading, I am going for a walk, all good, all considered me time. What I am referring to, you are not doing anything. Meditation is something. You're not doing anything and you just sit with yourself and just feel. Just feel. Nothing else. Just feel. You're not trying to quiet your thoughts. You're not trying to move your body. You're completely still, just trying to feel, having a conversation maybe with yourself. How am I feeling? When we have suppressed our emotions for such a long time, they're not going to come rushing back to you, because it's almost like we created a cave and we put a boulder in front of it, and then we put a cement around it, and then we put another boulder in front of it, so those feelings cannot escape. So it might take you a little bit of time to even start to feel. And when you're feeling, don't just feel with your heart or with your head, feel with your whole body. If you're feeling angry, just say to yourself, let me feel this anger from your whole body, from every single cell of my body, and not try to suppress it or change it or any of that. Let yourself feel. Just let yourself feel whatever you need to feel in that moment. Just letting yourself feel is going to create such a huge shift, because you're not holding on to anything in your emotional body. You're not putting things in your pain body. If you haven't already, have created a good relationship with it, that is something you can do, and you can keep it in check. It does not have to get triggered all the time. So that is something you can do, and then pay attention to how you feel on your next period. One last thing before we end this, I wanted to show you, again, let's say this is your physical body. And these are different chakras, energy centers that, let's say, we have. Throat, front heart, solar plexus, navel, sex chakra. And then, these are behind you: basic, Mengmen, back solar, back heart. Now, these are the major chakras that we look at. That's, something I work with when I'm doing energy healing. Now, pay attention to this one. This is solar plexus. So these are the chakra that are responsible for and this would be just back solar plexus. This is the part of you that you can say what would be the best word to say? Get involved with your emotions. So let's say you're feeling very anxious. Your solar plexus chakra is going to be overworking, because when you get anxious, it will start moving even faster. And what's going to happen, just try to balance your energy, because our natural way of being is all chakras balanced. That's when you feel like a healthy whole human. If those chakras are all over the place, one is bigger and the other one is smaller, you feel like I am all over the place and I don't even know myself, and you just feel confused and weird and not really fully present with yourself. It's hard for you to keep up with your day-to-day. It's hard for you to keep up with the things that you said you want to do. Most likely solar plexus chakra is completely off-centered. So what end up happening when it's overworking to clear the blockages that are happening in solar plexus chakra, energetical blockages, it's going to overwork. When it overworks, it gets so bigger in size. Like sometime I have my ear, the solar plexus chakra would be just way off course. See, if everybody else is like this tiny, this would be really big. Once it gets really big, it starts to impact other chakras. And when they start to get they are overworking, what's happening? The energy that is going to be provided by your solar plexus chakra, which would be your upper abdominal internal organs, they are not going to get that energy. And over time, what's going to happen if they are not getting the energy that they're supposed to get, and it has nothing to do with your food, we are talking about the energy that's coming from you, from your soul, the energy that we are connected with. We are talking about prana, life force. A good chunk of it comes from food, but not all of it. Some of it comes from the energy body that's around you and how all that mechanism work. I'm not going to go there. It's going to be super confusing. So then your internal organs are not getting enough energy. So we start to generate different kind of diseases because those organs are pretty much dying. The most common one is diabetes. So solar plexus is right on top of pancreas, and it does provide energy to pancreas. And when pancreas starts to get unstable, the whole uh, insulin level and whatnot starts to get unstable. And that's when, we end up having diabetes. And the root energy is stress. If you're feeling so stressed all the time, give yourself 10 years, you would develop some kind of diabetes. I don't know, like there's two different kinds, like one and two. Right now, I forgot how they both work, but something. If nothing else, you might develop, I believe it's called PCOS. It also has something to do with insulin, like insulin levels are changing. So that could be something you can develop. The reason I'm sharing this, your emotions create an impact on your physical body. Yes, they are energy. Yes, you can suppress them. Yes, no one can see how you're feeling inside of you, but over time, and it's not going to happen right away. I had a conversation with somebody who was experiencing a lot of stress, and I told them, give yourself five years. If you don't change anything, your body's going to start staying sick. So I'm pretty sure they thought I'm just crazy. Who's saying that? It's just like, if nothing is going to change, your body's going to get impacted because it's a physical body, it's matter. When it's not being provided enough energy, it's going to get impacted. If nothing changes, nothing changes, and it only gets worse. It is important. It is very important. I work with so many clients who have 2 to 3 diseases going on in their 30s. It's not normal. It's not normal for a human to go through that. But it has become normal because we are not even paying attention to our emotions. We are in a business of numbing our emotions, and you can have access to so many things right now, no matter which part of the world you live, to numb your emotions. One of them could be our wonderful cell phones. Get on it, just keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. One of the most used way of numbing yourself. And then you're like, oh, 2 hours are gone. On top of that numbing, what has happened for 2 hours, you looked at other people's life that was maybe better than your life. It looked like it was better than your life. So it adds to the sadness and the misery that you're feeling inside of you. But you could have used those 2 hours asking yourself, why I'm feeling this way? What is the story I'm telling myself? How can I come back to my center where peace and joy and happiness is? And don't try to use the bandage of gratitude. Yes, you can use gratitude, but there is also a bandage of gratitude that if you don't understand gratitude, it's very easy for you to go towards bandage of gratitude. And I'll explain what that is. Let's say you're feeling so sad. So it'd be like, oh, I think I should be grateful. Pay attention to the wording. I think I should be grateful because I have all these things. There are people who don't have even that. So it's like you're kind of giving yourself a lecture. You should be doing this. If you're not feeling grateful, you're not feeling grateful. Dig deeper, discover why is it so? Why is it so? What is the story that's playing in your mind? You cannot force gratitude on you. You can't really do that because you'll be just covering up something. You'll be covering up something that needs to come to the surface, processed and released. And then it'll be so much easier to feel grateful. So much easier. If you have not looked at why you're feeling sad, what is causing that sadness, and it's always a story playing in your mind, and there's always triggers that can activate that sadness, then putting gratitude on top of it is not really going to do anything. It's going to make you bitter, and the next time you'll be like, I don't want to feel grateful. But it all goes on in your head and no one else can see. So a few things that we learned from today. Your emotions are telling a story. Pause, listen to that story. Why? Ask yourself, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? What is the story I am playing in my head? And is that story true? And if you feel like that story is not true, then you can ask yourself, what else can I believe in right now that will make me feel better? Make me feel even a tiny bit better, just a little bit better. And also pay attention to when you go into, like, what is your way of numb your emotion? We all have our own, like, genius, wonderful ways of numbing our emotion. So ask yourself, what is your way of numbing your emotion? And once you have all those pieces together, you'll be able to create a life that is full of joy and happiness. You're still going to feel angry, sad, and depressed and all that, but you'll be able to work through it and come on the other side being back in your center. And the triggers in your life are not going to be the ones controlling your life. You'll be able to control your life. So that is all for today. I hope you um, have a better understanding of your own emotions and you're not just rejecting them, but you are able to accept them. We're going to go into Q&A. Anyone who's joining, who's on Facebook with us, just hop on and come here. I'm going to end the recording.